we had a scrimmage. We've now had an exhibition game. It was fun to bring Nigel Jenkins back, who played here, his Waldorf team, and it was good for us. It was good for us to get on the floor and with the lights on and the popcorn popping and give our guys a chance to see what we can do together on the floor in that kind of setting. It's tough when you've been able to, for the most part, put 10 of your guys on the floor all the time and get a lot of playing time. When we really start narrowing it down to a smaller group is what we're going through and is what we're working on. I feel really good about our depth and our group, so it makes it really challenging, to get it to that number. Hard to play 10. Sometimes it's really hard to play 9, and a lot of coaches will tell you 8. So we've got some challenges there, and it's a really good problem to have. But it's definitely some things I think we're working through. But I think we saw the returning guys that have made some really good improvements and got that experience under their belt. Sotene really kind of stood out for me that way. And it just backed up a little bit of the work he's been putting in this summer and fall. Getting a guy like Mitchell Suker healthy and getting that foot really feeling good again. I think you notice, again, the impact that he can have on a game with his size and skill. And then, it was about getting some of these new guys that, Elijah Brooks, a B.J. Oman, a Trayson Eaglestaff, some of these guys that haven't played a college basketball game necessarily in front of the lights, getting them some experience as well. So, I mean, a lot of different guys made some contributions. It was nice to see Brian Matthews, coming off of back surgery. He got a double-double, and his activity was really good. And I think he'll be another guy that just, now that he didn't really start practicing until the end of September. So that means he's had off since last March through basically September, a heel and a back. So it was a pretty significant surgery. So, we're getting healthy. We're getting back, and Caleb Nero, did some nice things. Brady Danielson has been awesome in practice. We just got a lot of different guys that have made some good contributions. So it's trying to weed it out and figure out what's the best thing for our team as we're moving forward. So
you were talking about rotation. Did that game help you further evaluate your rotation?
I mean, it did in some ways, right? But we've got to get better defensively. We just do. And a guy like Jalen Trent, who he didn't play in the first half because he had missed a practice 2 days previous, which was a little frustrating because we wanted him to get out and play more in that game. But he's a guy that I think can impact the game defensively, and I think he can do a better job than what he did in the Waldorf game. He had moments when he did, and he had moments when he wasn't as aggressive. But there's some things. I think there's some guys that have really kind of done an awesome job in their role, whatever that role is, and that have really established themselves in their role. And then I think we've got some guys where we just need some more consistency, both ends of the floor, and the defensive part of it's got to be something that's really, really important. And so just getting some consistency, so we can make decisions. Sometimes it's harder. And sometimes then you just kind of go with what your gut is telling you. And I think we'd like to see some guys stand out a little bit more and do what they can to help our team. That point guard position is what kind of sticks out the most that we're really kind of working through.
The schedule is maybe, I don't know, I think it's different when I've seen in the past. It looks like it's a little more challenging with teams coming in
Yeah.
and going on the road. Is that something you kind of like going forward to get to the summit?
Well, some of these games we're playing, I think we were supposed to play Seattle, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We were supposed to play Montana State 3 years ago. We were supposed to play Incarnate Word 2 years ago. A lot of these games, Seattle was co-champions of the WAC last year. They weren't 2 years ago. So they're going to be pretty good. Montana State, I think, was, up from a Big Sky championship. Cal Fullerton lost a lot of guys off that team, but Cal State Fullerton's going to be good. I think there's some awesome challenges. Pacific is a little bit different machine from the Big West in what they bring. Very athletic, very physical, really good rebounding team. It's just going to have some different guys on that squad than maybe what we see every night out. And then you go on the road, and we're playing at Portland, who, Sanjay's done an awesome job there. And so, we got some really challenging games. You throw in Creighton, who's picked to win the Big East, and Iowa State, who made a great run last year in a tournament. Yeah, I think we're challenging ourselves, and, there's an opportunity there when you're going against really good competition to grow, get better. And listen, if the outcome's going our way, awesome, but let's keep the focus on getting better, improving, and really preparing ourselves for December, January, February conference schedule. And because you're foolish if you just get so caught up in a record. But I really like depth. I really like our length. I think we've got different lineups we can put at teams that we haven't had. We sure didn't have it last year. And I think some of it's young, but some of we got 8 returners too that have got some good experience. So these younger guys are acclimated pretty well. And, November's going to be a good month for them to get more acclimated.
Can you mix and match guys up front in different positions, like with BJ
Yeah, BJ can play a lot of spots. Our need for him obviously is going to be a lot more kind of at that bigger wing, and then also giving us time at the 4. Defensively, he's our answer kind of as a backup right now for Mitch at the 4. And I think he's a good defensive presence at the 3, plus a skill set. I mean, you can honestly play the kid at a point if you wanted to. I mean, he can clearly rebound, dribble, bust, make decisions. He can stretch the floor shooting. But what he does defensively is he's very versatile. He's long. He can make up ground on mistakes, something Trayson can do. And as Trayson gets better defensively, and he has so much at 6'6" as a guard, he can make up for mistakes by his length, and he can make plays over guys at his position because he's 6'6" and he's pretty skilled. So, there's a good growth. Elijah Brooks can really, really move. If you watch that game, he has a knack and a feel that you just don't teach. Sometimes guys can make you look good as a coach, and he's one of those guys that has a pretty good feel. So, we got different lineups we can play. We can go small and play Mitch at a 5. We're really skilled, but we're not that small. So we can go really big with a guy like Brian Matthews at the 5. And maybe eventually even playing T at some 4, but it hasn't necessarily been something we've had to do or work on yet. But I think there's a door open for that down the road.
Last thing could be health-wise, it was pretty good going in the season.
Yeah, so far so good. Just nothing too big.
So scoring 93 points is impressive no matter the opponent, but looking at the overall shooting, it was only 4 for 20 from 3 and then 10 missed free throws as well. So what can you do to address that shooting sort of, I wouldn't say maybe issue, but shooting sort of problems off in that first game into the second?
Great question. I think the thing I noticed in the game, we only turned it over, I think 2 times recorded, and not to get on our stat people at all, but I think we had 3. But we only had 3 turnovers, so I think that's where the score comes into play. We took advantage of possessions. We shot it almost 50% with only 3 turnovers, 2 to 3 turnovers. So it made up a little bit for that. You're not going to have that every night, obviously, so shooting's going to be important. I thought the ball stuck sometimes. I thought, I think it was Finch from the Timberwolves said it this morning based on their game last night, and it really resonated with me, was we have guys that right now every time they get a catch, they want to try to make the play. And sometimes the play is just to make the next easy pass and to get into a flow and a rhythm on offense. So guys get some touches. Like we need Matt Norman to get some touches. And when he only touches it once and doesn't get the ball back at all in a shooting position, then we're not doing him any favors. And he's right now 50+% in practice, and we've statted everything from the start of practice. So, we need to get Matt Norman involved, and the way to get him involved is to allow offense to flow and get him open and get to a third side, first side, second side, third side, allow that defense to shift and move and get lost a little bit in defensive rotations, and we just didn't allow that to happen. So I think some of the shots we took were a little more ball stuck. I'm going to shoot it now. And it can't be that way. There's got to be movement into it. So now when I'm getting a catch, there's no hesitation. It's a flow to it. There's, every sport for the most part has a flow, and basketball definitely does. And if you disrupt it by sticking, and you hear it all the time, wow, man, it's just too many bounces. They're bouncing it too much. The ball isn't getting reversed enough. We had that issue, and I think that's where the shooting came in. And we just got to make sure those guys are getting the looks. Our bigs did a pretty nice job, but they kind of all got their shots out of a really good flow when they got theirs. So, it's something we're going to work on, and I think it's something we'll really improve at.